while hip flexion brings the thigh closer to the trunk, hip extension takes the thigh away from the body. And so we have a lot more range of motion in hip flexion than we do in hip extension.
What's interesting about hip extension is that the glute and the hamstring have to work together to facilitate hip extension. That's not their main job, right? The hamstring's main job is to bend the knee. The glute's main job is to externally rotate the thigh at the hip joint. One of the reasons hip extension gets really tricky in the yoga practice is that if the glute and the hamstring aren't firing together, they're not having relationship therapy, so to speak, the low back or the lumbar spine is more than happy to do the extension work. I am in lumbar extension here. Now I'm in hip extension. Lumbar extension, hip extension. When I'm in lumbar extension, the glute and the hamstring of this leg are not engaged. Now they're engaged for hip extension.
Step forward, step back, step forward, step back. How many times do you do this in your yoga practice?
Right. The yoga practice is a repetitive stressed practice, meaning that we are doing these actions over and over again.
Because there are so many muscles that pass through the pelvis, connecting the legs to the trunk to the legs, and our hips are designed for mobility, and our lumbar spine, lower back designed for stability. It's easy for the muscles in those joints to get confused.
Hip flexion, hip extension, and pelvic stability are really intertwined. The reason we talked about hip flexion and hip extension to start with pelvic stability is that those are superficial muscles. Rec fem, hamstrings, glute, right?
Yes, we can feel those muscles. They're more tangible to us in our practice.